Hello, my name is BJ Paris. Welcome to Tapping Into His Treasures. It's a beautiful March day, and it's over 60 degrees here in Maine, this March of 2012. And I think in New York and down Baltimore way, it's 70, 75 degrees. And they're calling it March Madness. Unbelievable. Anyway, people are out walking their dogs and just soaking in the sunshine. I was out myself early this morning. It was great. So our subject today is honoring our parents. And there's also a section in here for parents in their how they conduct their children in their households. Again, I wrote everything longhand because my computer was in the shop for 6 days. There's a lot in the Bible pertaining to children honoring their parents. But it also says in the Bible, in Proverbs, that parents must not provoke their children to anger and dishonoring them. This is a common problem due to reactionary parents and parents who know nothing about unconditional love. I'd like to read something here. Parents should not just ignore their kids' disrespect. It usually goes on in an argument, one has to be louder than the other. But parents should find ways to address their kids' heart issues. If a child's heart is so important, and requires training in order to develop in the right direction. That's something to think about now. It takes up to 40 positives and reassuring remarks to a young person before he or she is able to receive one correction. And from Proverbs 19:18, that was a good verse. Discipline your son while there is hope, but do not indulge your angry resentments by undue chastisements and set yourself to his ruin. That's in the Amplified, so it's a little longer than in the regular Bible. I've got to remember things like that. And teenagers, if your parents have some faults, you still do not have the right to disrespect them. The fifth commandment in the book of Exodus in the Bible reads, honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long upon the land which the Lord your God has given you. This rule is also given in the book of Deuteronomy and in Ephesians. God will not stand by and watch you swear at your parents or hit them, especially your mother, or dishonor your parents. He sees that as despicable. And he will make you pay the consequences. And sometimes that means physical death. Seriously. Jesus was an honorable son to his earthly parents, Mary and Joseph. And that honored God the Father. What does it mean to honor somebody? Well, outwardly it means to respect them. But inwardly, from the heart, it means to esteem them and to recognize them. So, what is that saying to you about honoring your parent? To recognize them as they have a title, mother and father. So you can't talk to them like they were a sibling of yours. You have to give them esteem for being your mother and father, or father. And same with the teachers at school and policemen. You can't disrespect them. You have to esteem them because of their position and their titles. Would you show your parents more honor by following God's way or a worldly way? Think about that. I know that you young people know the answer to that. The problem is that many children and teens treat their parents as if they are not even human. You've seen this, and I've seen this. We've all seen it. They use their parents for meals, spending money, a cell phone, a car, a bed to sleep in, heat in the wintertime, showers, a computer, video games, and all the rest. And you can add another couple of dozen, or another 50 or 60 to that list, can't you? Yep, they use their parents, but often when they try to get you to wash the dishes or take out the garbage, a young person may rebel, acting like the king of the castle who shouldn't have to lift a finger. How oftentimes do we see that? They may manipulate their parents until the parents give in to them. And that happens because parents want to avoid an argument. They don't want to make waves. They are masters at playing the game. When was the last time that you thanked your parents for something? Can you remember? I'm hoping that some of you say, this very day, or yesterday. I'm hoping that. Stop and think about it. Some of you guys need to examine your conscience and analyze your behavior, just like adults have to. It is because of the TV pardon me. If it's because of the TV shows that you watch in which children and teens make disrespectful remarks to their parents, then you need pardon me. You need to stop watching those shows. I have a frog. Excuse me. Okay, we were talking about, is it because you watch TV shows where kids and teens in the TV shows make remarks to their parents, disrespectful remarks? If so, then you need to stop watching those shows. I know it's true that when your friends get away with disrespectful behavior with their parents, that you go home to your houses and imitate them. You better even be careful with that, because I remember seeing on TV once this comedian from India, and you know that Indian parents are much stricter than American parents. And he went to his friend's house after school one day, and he watched, the mother said to the kid, go clean your room, and he told her a way to get off. Seriously. And every day it was something different, disrespect to the mother. So this kid from India decided, well, I'm going to go home and try that at my house. So he tried it, and his father just grabbed a hold of him, and I must have beat him to a pulp or something. So be careful when you imitate your friends, because it doesn't always work out on your behalf. When your friends are disrespectful to their parents and they're in their houses and in their presence, you need to speak up and tell your friends that what they are doing is wrong. You need to get some guts. If you don't, and you continue to hang around them, they will infect you with sin, because sin and disrespect and all those things are so infectious. Do you have a younger brother or sister that you can't stand, who you think is getting away with murder? Do you? Even if your feelings are genuine and you feel righteous indignation, that doesn't give you the right to badmouth your mother and father and to yell at them and scream in your house, changing a loving atmosphere from good to bad. You are not the only person living in that household. You are just one part of a family. You need to ask God to help you to stop acting like a whining baby and to grow up in some cases. If you don't respect your parents, you won't respect your teachers or lawgivers or your partners in future relationships. If you don't stop yourselves in your tracks while living with your parents, it's going to get a lot worse. It's going to get a lot worse for you when you go out in the world, to college, to the military, or when you get into a relationship. You will be shocked to learn that you have to share and to compromise. That will lead to fistfights, perhaps, and punishment, and it will lead to embarrassment. If you let your behavior get out of hand instead of allowing God and your parents to train you when you are young. Proverbs 22:6. I like to read that. This is kind of a popular verse. And it's to parents concerning children. Train up a child in the way he should go. And in keeping with this individual gift or bent, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. I'm going to read it without the insert from the Amplified. You recognize it more quickly. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. And that's also found in Ephesians 6:4 and 2 Timothy 3:15, if you're taking notes. And there are many testimonies out there pertaining to that verse, and I would be the first one to testify on that. Stick with it, even when you get to the point when you got a pile of kids and it seems like, for what? It seems like, for what? You're spending all your energy and everything, and there doesn't seem to be any response. Keep doing it even if you don't see any response. Just keep doing it for God's sake, to obey the Word of God. Because they may go off and do their things, parents, but they're going to come back to it. I don't care if they're in their 20s or 30s or 40s. They are going to come back to it. Always. Every single time, because God's Word does not return void. Yes. Jesus had a wonderful relationship with his mother and father. A very special relationship. He worked with his father in his carpenter shop. Just kind of picture it. In Nazareth. Perhaps it was a small shop at the end of the house, or maybe it was down the street a little bit. I kind of think it was really close to the house, part of the, like a little addition to the living quarters. And I picture Jesus as a dutiful young boy who loved learning how to use tools to build furniture and to repair things. And I'm sure he was dutiful and helped his mother with the household chores. And I'm sure he did it all happily and not begrudgingly. Just stop and think about the streets of Jerusalem, where they ate. Sometimes they didn't even have flooring. They had dirt floors. And don't think that's a bunch of garbage, because when I was on the mission field in Cuba, I had dirt on my floor too. The chickens running around the house. So many primitive things. And I don't know that Mary and Joseph and Jesus and the other family members, I don't know that they had a couch or a chair. Or I don't know if they had a picture on the wall. I would imagine that Mary was somewhat creative and had some decorations like flowers or something. But just kind of picture them eating their meals even. Did they eat at a table like that, us? Probably not. They were probably down on the floor eating like they do in Japan. Did they get a loaf of bread from the bakery, from the supermarket, with a twister tie on the end of it, and eat it with butter? Probably not. Well, definitely not. Mary made the bread each day, and some of the breads that the women made, they shaped like bowls. And when it hardened, or they baked it, it was, in fact, a bowl. And if she made a porridge or soup, they would pour the porridge into the the bread bowl that she had made. And then, golly gee, then they would eat the porridge. And when they were finished eating the porridge, they would actually eat the bread bowl. Isn't that interesting? We should imitate the relationship. We should imitate Jesus in the relationship that he had with his parents as often as we can. And take the time to stop and think about when your mother first knew that she was pregnant with you. Have you ever thought about that? For the first couple of months, she probably looked sideways in a mirror, looking for the slightest bump in her tummy. She was so excited. And then she went to the next stage and the next. And then, when you were born, her heart was overwhelmed as she held you and kissed you. What a feeling. Both of your parents nurtured you and provided for you all through your childhood on purpose. Think of those things. When you're feeling angry feelings toward your parents, think of those things. They cared for you and kept you safe. And then as the years went by, you drifted away from them. You became more interested in your friends. And that's the healthy and normal thing. But it still has an effect on your parents. Have you had a best friend who decided he didn't want to be your friend anymore, or she, and they started hanging around with other young people? Did it kind of prick you a little bit in your heart? Well, that's what your parents go through. Because they still have you as an older person, but they miss the nurturing and the caring because it's become a part of their being. So once you start going out with your friends and you start going to arcades and all those places, all the sporting events, and to the mall to hang out, all those things, you don't realize that after all the years of having someone to take care of, that it hits your parents like almost like a death. How bad it can get. They become terribly lonely and have a difficult time making the adjustment. Your parents have feelings. Yeah. The more you fight and argue with them and make their lives miserable in some cases, the more they want their old lives back. The mistreatment and disrespect was not what they envisioned when they planned their family. They didn't bargain for that. Parents make a lot of mistakes and can be very controlling when all the while you want your space. Yet when you rebel and go against them, you end up in trouble, sometimes ending up at the police station. Your parents foreknow all the dangerous paths that lie ahead of you. That's why they're concerned. Seriously, did you ever think about that? I remember when I was a girl of 14, and I was not dating, but just going out with a bunch of kids, including a fellow from my freshman English class who had a crush on me and I him. And it was snowing, and we were all going to the avenue for a pizza or something. And my mother's screaming at me, "Put your boots on, do not go outside in those." The little shoes that were a fad back then for teens were, I can't describe them. They weren't leather though. They were like a heavy cloth. Not suede, but something similar. And they were very low cut. And I wanted to be stylish when I went out with the gang, so I wore them out in the snow and ice in the cold weather. Well, what do you think? Within a week, I was in bed with rheumatic fever, which stayed with me my whole life. I'm a senior now, and I still have symptoms of my childhood disease. And it was so horrific that I was too sick to even go to the doctors. The doctors at that time would make an exception and come to the house if it was serious enough, a rare case. And the family physician actually came to the house to examine me. And he knew right away because my bones, it's symptomatic of bones hurting. My bones hurt. I could hardly move my body. And I had a very high temp. So I had to go right into the hospital for tests and for whatever else they did. And then from there they wanted to put me in a sanatorium. They used to put people with tuberculosis in sanatoriums way back then, like in the late 50s and probably before that. And that's what I really needed, but I couldn't bear the thoughts of leaving my house, my family. And I promised the doctor that I would stay in bed and really behave myself, work on getting better. if he would just let me stay home in my own bed with my family. And he agreed, and that's what I did. But I couldn't go to school. I had to have a private tutor come to the house to teach me all my lessons. And I couldn't go and socialize with the kids, which was terrible. And my kids' friends were all out having a good time, and there I was in bed. And a lot of time all by myself. It was a very difficult time to go through. All because I wouldn't listen to my parents because I thought I knew it all. And how many times did things like that happen? Reconsider, please. Then I remembered years later when I had a family and my kids started dating, and by that time the drug culture was upon us. And I remember one of the first girlfriends that they brought to the house. I don't even know how old they were, maybe around 18-ish. And she wasn't from the right side of the track. Not that I dishonor anybody from the other side, because I've been on the other side. But she was into drugs, and probably alcohol too. And when she left, I said to my kids, her teeth were all messed up. Her teeth were all rotten. All rotten. And she would keep doing this and everything. I'll never forget it. And come to find out, you know, when I talked to people about it, they said it's from drugs. And I said, oh my God. Can you imagine how her parent felt? You know, if her mother said, don't do drugs and stay away from people who do drugs. Can you imagine her saying, oh, I know what I'm doing, leave me alone. That's probably what happened in her household. And consequently, look what happened, because she didn't listen to her mother and possibly her father. A whole mouth of rotten teeth at 18 years old, 18 years of age. Wow, that's terrible. All because she didn't listen to her parents, though. My relationship with my mother, we're going off to another track now. My relationship with my mother later in life was not good. I loved her as my mother, but we just didn't get along. She had her favorite in the family, and you know, I got into spiritual matters and things, and that wasn't her cup of tea, so that kind of turned her off against me, and just a whole lot of things. And it was not a good relationship, but I honored her. I never told my mother to shut up or any of that stuff. I honored her. And then when she got really, really old, I did my duty, like anybody else, getting on in years. And my sister and I split her care. So she would go from Connecticut to Maine when I was in Maine, or Connecticut to Baltimore when I was in Baltimore, and back and forth, and stayed for a while with my sister and a while with me. And she used to drive me nuts. And I remember, without her hearing, of course, I remember complaining to my friends about her. I would name all these little idiosyncrasies that would bother me, you know, these little irritations, and complain. And then one day, God just got a hold of me. I think I was even in my kitchen, in my upstairs kitchen in Baltimore. Sometimes you get a picture when things like that happen, when God impresses upon you something that you remember for the rest of your life. And he got a hold of me, and he reprimanded me. He sternly reprimanded me. I remember him saying to me, I don't care what she's doing. And like, I don't care how much sleep you're losing. Even if your complaint is legitimate, I don't care. She is your mother. And I felt so ashamed before God. I felt so ashamed before him. So I immediately repented. And I immediately stopped complaining about my mother. And more than that, I was so thankful to God for the discipline, the divine discipline. You know, when I go to heaven, all of us, when I go to heaven, I may have to watch a video of myself and listen to myself complaining about my mother. That could be pretty embarrassing. Well, we probably won't get embarrassed in heaven, because we won't have the same emotions that we have now. I don't think, anyway. But I don't think it would be pleasant to have to watch and listen to myself in that atmosphere before God. So I'm just glad that God stopped me in my tracks. And I hope that some of these words today from heaven will stop some of you in your tracks too. I hope you'll purpose to get a renewed thankfulness for your parents, your mom and dad, and tell them so. Don't wait till they die and they're gone, or don't wait till they're in a nursing home. And just don't honor them. And in doing so, God will honor you for it. Yep, here it is again. Simply repent and ask for God's help. We have an advocate with the Father, don't we? An advocate with the Father in heaven. He wants the best for you. And if you honor your parents now, and esteem them and recognize them and respect them, when you're a parent, you will carry on with it, and your children will honor and respect you as well. It'll be like a domino effect from your parents to you, to your children, to their children. It's a beautiful thing. I'm glad God put it in the commandments. Thanks for watching. God bless you and God bless yours. And God keep you and God keep yours. Till next time. Bye-bye.